Hello there, my name's Vanessa Smedley and I'm a painter. Well, even though it reached over 80 degrees Fahrenheit here in Oklahoma over Christmas, which is definitely not typical, we are going to forge forward into cooler temperature type subjects, and we're going to paint this adorable little penguin right here. Mainly because I think he's super cute and I really just want to. We are also going to make it an exercise in using only two colors. We're going to use a blue and a brown, and we are going to try out Tonic watercolors for the very first time. So, let's do this! Here are the supplies for today. You can pause and screenshot that, or they're listed in the description of the video for you. Alright, so here is the watercolor we're going to use today. It is Tonic watercolor from Federal Color in St. Louis, Missouri. And it is kind of an in-house thing that they do there for the St. Louis art supply store, which I get some of my supplies from them. It's just a little local art store, I think, in St. Louis, Missouri, although I've never been there personally. I just order things from them. So anyway, I have Oxide Red here and Prussian Blue, and you can see they come in these just absolutely enormous little porcelain tins, or not tins, but porcelain little pans, and that is a considerable amount of paint. I don't know how much that would equal out to in tube form, but they are enormous, and I paid $16.95 for each one of those. I think that would last for quite a considerable amount of time though, so take that into consideration. But basically they say that these are very, very concentrated watercolors, and they kind of almost come out opaque if you just touch them with water and like go with it. So you have to add quite a bit of water, more so than you would probably think that you would normally do, in order to get it to the transparent properties that you normally consider with watercolor. But I'm just going to go ahead and show you kind of how this works. You just touch it directly to it and there it goes. I mean, it re-wets nearly immediately. And like I said, that is a very concentrated amount of color, and you just add as much water as you want to. And there you go. And if we use this on the red oxide, it's the same thing. You just touch it and man, that is concentrated watercolor. So there you go. Let's give this a whirl. I'm going to paint this background as a wet on wet, meaning I'm going to wet the entire thing and then add the color. So I'm wetting the entire thing with a 1-inch flat brush, very gingerly around Mr. Penguin. Next I go to mix up some of the Prussian Blue, and I want it to be very, very light, but right off the bat I found out how concentrated these paints actually are and had to remove some of the paint and then add more and more water to get it as light as I wanted to. And then I used a lot of Prussian Blue and a lot of the Oxide Red to make a very, very nice dark black, and then a darker Prussian Blue. I'm wetting this a second time just to make sure that it stays as wet as I would like it to. And man, I have never had this Arches paper buckle this bad before. I know Canson bought them a few years ago, and I'm kind of wondering if the quality is suffering a bit. I mean, because I've used a ton of water on it before and I don't remember it doing this. Regardless of that, I'm going to begin dropping in some of this very light Prussian Blue in the background, and we're just going for kind of a snow effect. Just going to continue to let that spread and hope that all that buckling doesn't cause back runs on this. Now I'm bringing in a darker consistency of that same color, continuing to add a thicker consistency here, and then I bring in that really dark black for the darkest parts of this. And it seems like it's drying out because it's not moving very much, so I give it a spray with my spray bottle. Next I add in a few dots of that Oxide Red, just nice and strong, to give a little bit of variety and some warmth to some of this area. And one more spray to keep it moving. Now if some of that darker paint has encroached into areas that you don't really want it to, you can take a nice damp brush and you can remove some of it or move it around, lift a little bit here and there, add a little bit, just to your heart's content. I've allowed that to dry, but I really want some of that blue to be a little bit more vibrant. So I'm going to wet the entire thing again, and then I'm going to add back in just a little bit more intensity of the blue. And then I'm going to allow all of that to dry completely. Now that it's dry, I'm taking a damp brush and I'm lifting out these little oversplash areas because that's going to end up being a very light color and I don't want that to show through. All of this is dry now, but I'm coming back in and I'm wetting the entire chest area. We're going to begin to put some of those shadows in there. And then we are going to mix up a very light consistency of the Prussian Blue and the Oxide Red to make a nice, lovely light gray. And we're adding that the darkest at the bottom of his belly and then underneath his neck, and we're blending out the rest, lifting as you need to lift some out or moving it around, darkening it in other areas. And I'm just using a nice damp brush to lift out some more highlight areas on the chest and make sure this looks like a little rounded area. I've allowed all of that to dry, and now I'm going to work on the black parts. So I am mixing up as dark of a black as I can get, using as little water as humanly possible to get the color transferred from the cakes, and just making it as dark as I can. And then I mix the same thing, but a little bit more water and a little bit more blue. I'm starting out with the cooler mixture here, and we're just going to give this kind of a once over. Then we're going to add in the darker color in the shadow areas. And then I'm just going to add more water to spread that into the highlight areas. While I'm here, I'm going to add a little bit of the feather details around his eyes, and then I'm going to add in some of that Oxide Red to the back of his head because there's a little bit warmer of a glow there from the sunlight. And then we're coming back in and we're lifting it out with a damp brush for the highlight areas on the back of his head and the front of his head. I'm going to continue that cooler mixture here down onto his little wings, or flippers. Are they called wings? Are they called flippers? I'm not entirely sure. I should probably check that out. I'll be right back. Hold on. Okay, I'm back. Google says that their wings have evolved to become flippers, so I guess they're both. And now that we have that knowledge, I'm using some water to spread that around into the lighter areas for the white parts of his wings, flippers things. I'm going to jump back up here to his beak because it's mostly dry and I think it won't cause blooms. Just going to use that same color to fill this in. I'm going to skip a few areas that are lighter, and then I'm going to come back in with just water to spread that around. Only it got kind of a little bit dark, so I'm going to come back in and lift that out again in a second with a damp brush. And there you go. Alright, so I've allowed all of that to dry. Now I'm going to work on the white areas. So I'm adding a nice lovely light gray made from the two colors that we've been mixing, of course, for his little chin area. And now I'm going to darken some of the shadow areas on the belly. Only I got it a little too dark, so I'm going to come back in with a shop towel and lighten it up just a little bit at the end. Then I'm going to darken up the shadow area underneath his chin and make some suggestions of feathers there, and I'm going to allow that to dry. Now it's time to bring in the darker feather patterns here underneath his chin, and I'm using a very small brush. I think this is either a number 6 or a number 4, and I'm just suggesting these little feathers in here. Now I'm kind of painting in each one, which I normally wouldn't do, but that's really just the pattern of his feathers here, so you kind of have to do what you got to do. And then continue down onto his belly with these cute little patches. And then do the same thing up on his face. Then we'll darken the shadows on the white parts of his wings, flippers. And then with our very darkest black that we mixed, we're going to come back in with some feather details on the head and the shadowy areas here. I'm just going to add a little bit more definition with our very dark black. Just a tiny little bit of detail darkening on the beak. Next, I waited for all that to dry, and now I'm coming back in with a 0.7mm POSCA pen, which is a very fine tip, and just adding a few tiny little details here on his beak and around his eyes and things like that. Just adding back in that highlight. You could use some nice white gouache or white acrylic as well if you'd like. And here's the finished painting, all dry and with the tape removed, and isn't he flipping adorable? You know, pardon the pun. And there's a nice lovely exercise in using only 2 colors. Probably could have used the warm color a little bit more, but I mean, what are you gonna do? And there you have it. A nice little trial of Tonic watercolors on this absolutely adorable little penguin. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share all of that stuff, because that's how this channel gets to grow. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again next time.